Yeah, we normally start recording after we've covered off a few things, and we have to recap in the video.
So we are recording now, and here I am with Matt, and we're going to talk more today about the OYES plan, which has been elusive, I have to say. You know, usually when I coach people, by this time in the coaching, Matt, you know, we've kind of got a path forward in terms of the OYES plan, the 1-year exit strategy, which often turns into a 2-year exit strategy, to be honest. But yep. we do need to move the ball forward, and I'm hoping that that's going to happen fairly soon. And you've just had an experience which tells you that, you know, life is short, and you want to try and do your best to enjoy your life and to find you know, your true calling. One of the things that you and Michelle have both said is, you just don't want to continue down the path that you're on, which I completely understand. You know, if you were 30, that's a little bit different, but you're now in your 40s, right? And 50s. Yeah, you don't look it though. I hate that, but you don't. So we do need to try and make some progress. And you sent me, you know, a 6-plex in Bourget. And I thought that was quite interesting, but one of the comments I made back to it, which I'm sure you saw by email, was that I think that you know, most sellers don't calculate cap rates very well. They kind of reduce the expenses, they increase the revenues, they cheat a little bit, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so they say, oh, you know, we got an 8% cap rate, we got a 6% cap rate, even we got a 5% cap rate. And then when you actually do it yourself, and you include things like property management, a cost for your own time, you know, vacancy allowance, maybe some bad debt, usually the cap rate shrinks. But on the one that you sent me, I thought their cap rate was probably fairly well calculated, and it turned out to be 4%. And then I wrote you back that the minimum that I set for myself and everybody I coach is 6, whether it's LA or Bourget, which is a small town, or even a village, I guess. And if you want it to contribute to the OYES plan, you probably have to get to 8 or 9%. And what I mean by that, Matt, is, and I know there's a lot of this stuff is new to you, so I'm going to try and explain it as best I can. You're not just trying to make a higher return so you can have a nicer car. I mean, that's, you know, and fancy trips. That's a nice thing to think about. But you really have to think about how to push the cap rate to, you know, at least 6 or 7, hopefully 8 or 9. And if you get into the double digits, that's fantastic. So that you're generating a lot more cash flow from every property that you do. It may not be that one property that you buy is your OYES plan. You know, it could be, but in most cases, people like yourself and myself, you might have 3 or 4 or 5 properties, and if they're generating 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10% cap rates, they are going to generate enough cash flow above and beyond the cost of everything that you have to pay, including your mortgages. So that you and Michelle have some flexibility in your go-forward plan. In other words, you can quit your day job.
Yes.
But, but 4% isn't going to work.
Right. I got that. And you had asked me if we'd considered how we might be able to improve that. And I did spend some time. I actually responded to your email. And in this particular case, just looking at it, and again, we're new, so there's some unknowns to us, but you know, some of the things that we thought, I don't think this property will work for those reasons. And we'd have to wait for tenants to vacate, then renovate, and that OYES becomes a 10 yes, right? So
yeah, that's too long. But I thought we should at least study it because it was of interest to you, and it does have some potential. So I did a little bit of homework myself, and let's go through it just so that, and I guess Michelle can watch this recording later.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope so.
We have a plan to do that. Yeah.
Oh, good. So I wanted to show you, where is it now? Here it is. So this is what we were talking about a moment ago. This came right from the MLS listing. The valuation has been established using a 4% cap rate after deducting a 5% vacancy and contingency. It's a value add investment opportunity. So I thought they did a pretty good job. You know, most realtors are terrible at this. You know, they're residential realtors who are really not investment realtors or commercial realtors, but whoever wrote this up seems to know what he or she is doing. And then I said, you know, to contribute to your OES plan, it needs to be above 6% and hopefully between 8 and 9. So what are some of the possible animations? And we'll come back to that in a minute. So just for the recording, I'll just make it a little bigger. This is the 6-unit duplex, sorry, 6-unit 6-plex in Bourget. Bourget is actually, one of the things I found interesting is it's about 19 minutes to Calypso Waterpark, which is, Calypso, I mean, obviously during the pandemic wasn't going very well. Maybe it was closed for a whole year or two, but it has reopened, and Calypso is the real deal. Like there can be as many as 13,000 people a day there. Did you know that?
Yeah, my daughter was there yesterday, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? Okay. And so here's Pontfin Street, and here's the 6-plex, I think, right here. And I noticed that it's a pretty big lot, and in behind there's some vacant land, and there is even a sort of a Quonset hut or workshop down here. And then I just went on Wikipedia. Now I'm a 2-minute expert on Bourget. Bourget is slowly expanding. Many housing projects are being developed in the northern part of town, and the small business sector is growing in the heart of Bourget with the opening of a small strip mall. So not much is happening there. And it's in the city of Clarence-Rockland, which has about 21,000 people, but I couldn't get the population of Bourget itself. Do you know what it is?
No, but I drive by there a lot on my motorcycle. It's small.
It's small.
It's kind of like the hub to all those little side streets, but it's still small.
Yeah, which is not necessarily a bad thing. A couple of other things I noticed on the listing is it had been on up for sale for about 50 or 60 days, and that's good. Because you don't want to be in a competitive situation. People were panic buying for 2 or 2.5 years. They were overpaying by, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Which we sold, as a realtor, I sold some rural property, which I thought would sell for $950,000. It was a decent house, but nothing spectacular. It sold for 1.35 or 1.4 million, like $400,000 over ask. And we lost track of the number of offers we got. I think it was like over 30. And that I don't want you and Michelle to do.
Right.
I mean, that's terrible. So anyway, this I found interesting is during the 1920s, logging of the white pine forest in this area left a barren, sandy area, then known as the Bourget Desert. Since that time, millions of trees were replanted in the area, and now the area is now known as the La Rose Forest. And one of the things I like about this property is I might have a picture here somewhere of the back. I don't know if I have it, but it might actually be possible if the water table is high enough to have a little pond in the backyard. I'll bet you, because as you know, I have some property where it's very sandy soil. I have white pines. White pines love sand. And if the water table is close to the surface, you could dig a very small pond, but a small pond in the backyard, throw some largemouth bass in there, and it would be an attractive feature.
Okay. I like the idea of a pond. I like fishing. So to me, that makes sense. But how does that generate revenue?
It doesn't generate a damn thing. So, okay. But I did have a suggestion for you. And again, I'm not saying that we should do anything, but it's something that you could do, I think. And some of my clients did. So what you might do is, if you could get one of these units vacant, is you might take one unit, renovate it, furnish it, and put it on Airbnb together with a couple of bunkies like this in the backyard. You know what these are, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
These I really like. I've talked to you and Michelle about it, and I should get a percentage of the sales of Bunky Life for the number of people I've sent to their website. But you can buy these really sweet cabins, for just under 10,000. In fact, Bunky Life this week, I think, reduced the price because after the pandemic is kind of fading, we hope. They reduced the price of this from $9,995, so just under 10 grand, to just under $9,500. So they cut $500 off the price. So you could buy these kits, and as you know, they can accommodate a queen size bed at grade. And then you can see on the right-hand side, they have two, you know, for the kids, you put two little beds up in the loft. You can sleep 4 people in a cabin with a footprint of 104 square feet. And you do not require a building permit for these because they're so small, at least in most jurisdictions. I suspect Bourget would be the same. So what I was going to challenge you to do is, you know, think about what this might look like if you had 1 unit on Airbnb. And are these, I can't remember, are these 1 bedroom or 2 bedrooms?
They're 1 bedrooms.
Yeah. So imagine if you had a 1 bedroom place and say 2 bunkies. So the 1 bedroom could accommodate, you know, 2 people, and the 2 bunkies could accommodate up to 8. So you could accommodate like 10 people. And lots of folks who go to Calypso, you know, don't necessarily want to stay in a hotel. They want a different experience, right? So I think you could do something interesting with this property to create some additional income. And you would only operate it for June, July, and August. So you'd operate it for those 3 months. And you know, so you don't have to winterize your bunkies. And you know, and you don't have to add bathrooms or anything. You've got 2 bunkies that go with you know, say a 1 bedroom apartment. If people want to go to the bathroom or take a shower, they just go in, you know. So you rent it to a family, right? So like for somebody like me, my wife and I would stay in the 1 bedroom, and I got 5 kids back in the day when we were doing stuff like this. And they would, you know, by the time they're 7, 8, 9, you could put them in the bunkies at the back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I was going to challenge you to do as an exercise is to do a spreadsheet and see what you could do with this. What would result from something like that?
Okay.
And so what you'd have to do is look on Airbnb to see what's available near Calypso. You know, I imagine during the season that people are charging, you know, anywhere from $150 to $250 a night. And you only have a season of, I think it's 113 days.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, that's the thing, Bruce. And then when I think of that and I compare it to something that you had mentioned to us when we first started speaking, just by way of sort of looking at this through 2 different lenses. One of them was Merida in Mexico.
Merida.
And Merida, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're talking about 113 days here for Calypso.
Yes.
Versus Mexico, which is ostensibly 200 days, with
correct.
a lot less weather.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you, but one of my jobs as your coach, and hopefully as a friend as well, is to get you to do maybe dozens of spreadsheets so that you get experience, because I'm trying to do a brain transplant for me to you and Michelle. And the only way to really get sort of a sense of what's going to work and what's not is by doing the analysis, right? So I think you should, because you brought Bourget to the table, you should do that. And so what I was going to suggest is you do a spreadsheet, you buy it for, I don't know, $400,000, you do some renovations, you add a couple of bunkies, and the bunkies, after the season is over, you close it down. You're not renting them as soon as Calypso shuts down in September, you would shut down. But the apartment, the 1 bedroom apartment, you would, because it's furnished, you would switch for the other 9 months to a medium-term rental, not a long-term rental, because then they have the right to overstay, and then you're screwed. Right. So a medium-term rental would be 29 or 30 days, right? And there are people who need, who go on Airbnb, you know, they're constructors, they're coming to the area, they're a consultant to, you know, Rockland Township or something like that, and they need a furnished place, you know, and they'll rent it for a month or 3 months, okay?
Yeah, okay.
And the medium-term rental furnished, you know, what are they getting on each one of these? Do you remember what are they getting for rent?
Off the top of my head, no, but I've got it open here somewhere. 1 second.
I probably have it too.
Eight Pot Bank Street. So revenue is 41,580.
So if you take that and divide it by 6, holy smokes, they don't make very much money on these things.
No.
Man, that's pretty friggin' low. You know, they're making what, $500 a month on these things.
Yeah.
So there is
that's the net
so
revenue
there
is
is
21. Yeah.
there is opportunity because you know, as they become vacant, just as long-term rentals, there's no way you're going to rent a 1-bedroom for 500 a month. If one becomes vacant, you're going to rent them at, you know, at least 1,200 a month. Yeah, I mean, the rents will double. I mean, I'm sure of that. So, but what I'm saying is, let's assume for the moment that you've got the 1-bedroom apartment on Airbnb for the season of the Calypso's season. You're getting $150 to $225 a night for the 1-bedroom, and then for the bunkies, you're getting another $125 each. So maybe, you know, on the 2 bunkies, and you get $125 a night times 2, and then you add maybe say you know, $225 for the, you know, for the 1-bedroom. So you might get as much as $400 or $500 a night for this little gem, and you multiply that by 113 days of summer, you get about 50 grand. And then you have to deduct, you know, some vacancies from that. So you might, but I think you could do quite well. And then the other 9 months, I think you should assume that on a medium-term rental, you'll probably get $1,500 a month, or even $2,000 a month for a 1-bedroom furnished. Because if you go to a hotel, you know, you get yourself a 1-bedroom, well, you know, a hotel room, even in the Bourget, you know, Limoges area, you're probably paying $125 to $150 a night. At even $100 a night, that's $3,000 a month. And where would you rather, you know, if you went to Rockland to do a little bit of work, where would you rather stay for a month or 3 months? You know, a 1-room hotel room or 1-bedroom apartment that's nicely fit up.
Right, with a yard and everything
With
else.
a yard and a patio or whatever, and a parking space right there. So I do think you can count on 1,500 to maybe even as much as 2,000 a month from the medium-term rentals for 9 months, and then, you know, $400 or $500 a night for the 113 days of summer for this little. And I think you'll find if you do that, that you could push the you know, the cap rate up, but I don't know that until you do the work.
Right. Okay. So that'll be an assignment for me, and
An assignment, and I think it's worth doing as an assignment. The other thing that you could do if you were to buy it is you could put in an offer subject to getting 1 unit with vacant possession.
Okay. Yeah. Because that would open up the whole possibility.
That would open up, because otherwise you're stuck. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, it could be a 10 OYES, which is really bad.
Which is a no yes, yeah.
And by the way, the way the seller would get vacant possession is cash for keys. Do you know what that is?
You buy them out. You buy out the tenant.
Yeah. So I'm serious about this. If you you know, wanted to put in an offer, it would probably help you with that offer if you wanted, and you'd put in the offer, and you would ask for vacant possession of 1 unit, and you wouldn't put it in the offer, but either you or I would tell the realtor, probably me, that look, the way to get somebody out is just to offer them cash for keys. So when the closing is imminent, all the conditions are waived. And I've been buying out tenants for a long time, and it's a lot faster to give them cash to move than it is to put them through the process of evicting them. That's really hard. And the going rate is anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 to get rid of the tenant. And don't take this wrong, but if they have alcohol or drug problems, if you offer them, say, it wouldn't be you, if the seller offers them $3,000 or $4,000, they'll probably take it.
Right.
You know, they'll crash somewhere else and they'll drink that money away, or they'll inject it into themselves. It's a terrible thing, but that's what happens. A lot of my clients, as you know, buy handicap property. Again, that's not very politically correct, I'm afraid, but they do. And sometimes you have crackheads in there, you have drug dealers in there. I've got one guy who's going to offer a group of Hells Angels $40,000 in cash to move out. I mean, the property is a complete wreck, but he wants it. And I'm not suggesting you would do anything like that. But you know, the seller could offer them $2,000, $3,000, maybe as much as $4,000. And you probably get one tenant who will take that and just
take the money and run.
Yeah, they'll go out to Alberta with the money and you know, work on the
oil fields.
There's a lot of, I was just in Alberta, as you know, and there's a lot of work there. So, you know, oil at $100 does wonders for the Alberta economy.
Yeah.
So is it clear as mud?
No, I would say it's a little bit more clear than mud. I think that I understand sort of conceptually what we're looking to do, and the exercise here is to see how or what the art of the possible looks like on a spreadsheet. Like, does this actually make sense? Can we use this as fuel for our OYES, and can we use it as a stepping stone, hopefully to increase the value of the property?
Again, I'm not saying you should buy it, but I am saying you should analyze it. And
some vision casting a little bit too.
What's that?
A little bit of vision casting for how we could make this, if not this, something else work that looks similar to it.
So it's very, very important to, you know, like all of us learn by doing, you know, hopefully coaching does help speed up the process. And I think it does, but learn by doing is, you know, when you're doing the analysis yourself, and send it to me and I'll critique.
Okay.
It. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
So we dealt with that. And because I have some other ideas for the OYES, so I'm not going to give that up yet. Okay. Let's talk about the Navan situation. Yeah. So Navan, I don't think you're going to get. You're not going to get a. You're not going to get a coach house there. No. I just don't think so. I think I told you what I did with my barn dominium when I couldn't get a coach house there either, right? Did I show you what I did?
Yeah, you put a rolling.
We just put a huge, tiny home on wheels on there. You know, I mean, the stupid city of Ottawa is going to charge me $121,000.
Yeah, that's a non-starter.
Studies to build a 542 square foot, 1-bedroom bunkie on piles on a 4-acre site. I thought that was, and it could take 1 or 2 years. And after 1 or 2 years, they could turn me down after spending all that money. So I said, to hell with that. And we have a $55,000 modular home that we just wheeled on the site. You know,
so for Navan, that raises a few questions. So one of the things that Mackenzie from Xander had said is we could put up a workshop.
Yeah.
But with the workshop, the challenge there is the tenants that are currently in place don't have a need for a workshop. One's a paramedic, another one works in long-term care. There's no need for workshops just yet. So in order to be able to animate that and haboo that property and get the additional revenue, we'd have to wait for some of those people to leave and then put a workshop in and market it as that work live condition.
If you build a workshop now, there are two possibilities, right? One, you could go to one of your two tenants if you have a good relationship with one of them and say, look, we'd like to turn that garage into a workshop. And we're not going to spend a lot of money doing it, but we are going to make it a nice workshop. And if you're okay with it, we would rent that to a third party, which we are not allowed to do because it has to be a home-based business. So the only way it would work now is if one of your tenants, and we did this on one of our properties in Greeley. We went to one of the tenants in a property, an older lady was in a 1-bedroom. My clients developed a big workshop. I think I showed it to you, a 1,600 square foot enormous workshop. And
cannabis testing.
Right, exactly. And so we asked her if that was okay. And she said, I don't care, sure. There's plenty of parking here anyway. And then we said, we'd like you to rent it as an augmented tenancy and then you to sublet. And she said, oh yeah, I do that. What do I get for that? And I think she gets like $200 a month for that. And she does nothing, right? There's no risk to her whatsoever. It's an augmented tenancy. We've talked about that before.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you had a workshop, if you turned that detached garage into a workshop, you would own, this, I've shown you this picture before, something like this. And I think this was your picture, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So if you were going to do that, if you're going to turn that detached garage and, basically rebuild it into a workshop, you would only do that if one of your tenants was willing to play ball. If not, then you're right. You should wait until one of them vacates.
Okay. All right.
Do you have a good relationship with any of your tenants?
Great relationship with both units.
So I would talk to them both and say, look, we'd like to, and one of the things that seems to work really well, other than just money, is that by making the property viable, basically, it buys you and Michelle and them as well time, right? Because you're not trying to kick them out. You're not trying, you're just trying to make a living here. So you should, again, as an exercise, you should certainly just talk to them. And what you might find is they might say, oh, listen, I don't need a workshop, but my best friend, down the road is jammed for space, and he would like a workshop. And then you do the augmented tenancy. So you rent it to the tenant in the building. He or she, they sublet it to their friend or somebody else. They get a little bit of money for that, so that their rent is subsidized basically, and you get you get to dance on the side of the angels,
which is what I want to be doing. Okay, perfect. Okay, good. That's good to know. So just quickly on the Navan front as well, Bruce, and this is the property cash flows right now, and I think it'll continue to appreciate. If you look at the urban sprawl, if you ever in this part, Navan Road is essentially going to be the next Innis Road in Orleans.
100%.
For Navan. It's coming, and we're right on there. It's a big size
100%.
lot. So the question is, does it make sense to hang on to that property, given that, like, workshop notwithstanding, we've had that conversation, but look at that property. Does it make sense to sell that property? I know it's a buy and hold mentality that we have, but we're not able to animate this and get the kind of cap rates that we're looking at to support our long-term and our OYES. So
right. Do you know what the cap rate is on it now?
No.
All right. Okay. So boot up do you have a spreadsheet there, Matt? Let's figure it out right now. Get yourself can you boot up a spreadsheet? Excuse me.
I can start a blank spreadsheet. Yeah.
Yeah, boot up a blank spreadsheet.
Okay.
And I'm going to make you the co-host so you can share it with me. All right, so you can share your screen. So boot up a spreadsheet.
Okay.
And share your screen with me so I can see it.
All right. Can you see this?
I will look in a second. I'm just going on Google Maps. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. Oh, yeah, perfect. Okay. So yeah. All right. So save it. Just save. Yeah. Thank you for making a picture. Save it somewhere where you can find it again.
Okay.
Where did you save it?
Right now, I have it on my Mac, but I'll put it on Dropbox as well. I've got a couple of other backups too.
So go over to column A. So move all the way over to what do you have column A there? Where's column A? There it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, just put that up there. Perfect. And put a date in column B, just July 20th, I think. Yeah. All right. And then drop down to A4. Okay, rent, and then drop down 2 spaces down to A6, well, no, unit, so we'll just call it main floor, okay. Just main floor. And how much is the rent? Put that in B6. How much is that? B6, yeah, what is the rent there? 1,600 a month, 2,000 a month?
No, it's 1357.
Okay, and then go down to A7 and basement. And how much is that rent? Okay, and then go to B8 and sum up the two numbers above. Perfect. Oops. Equals, just go equals, and then that, and then put, you should put it, no, you want to put a plus sign between the two of them. So get rid of that, just cancel all that shit. All right, equals, and then plus, that's it, perfect, and then enter. Okay, so that's, and then now go, no, that's fine. Oh, that's nice. All right, now go equals, and then click on B8, and then multiply by 12. And there you go. And in A9, put in GOI. That stands for gross operating income. Beautiful. So that's your gross operating income right now. Now, in A10, put OPEX, O-P-E-X, right? OPEX, perfect. And then in C, go to C10, and just put in the number 34%. 34, and then hit a percent. Perfect. Okay, and that equal, then go into that exactly equals, then put a minus sign in, and then click on C10. That's it, and then put a multiply sign, and then go up to gross operating income, and then hit enter. There you go. That's your negative. The brackets mean negative, right?
Right.
So
okay.
So that's your NOI, net operating expenses. Sorry, net operating income. And then you just sum up those two numbers. Equals 30,000 there. Plus, no, not minus, plus, because it's a negative already, right? Plus plus that guy. Yeah. No. Okay. Go away. And then oops. Yeah. Plus. You got to go on the other side of it. Okay, right. Yeah, just get rid of it. You got to go.
Let's start over. Sorry.
Yeah, start over.
Equals
that guy.
This
plus
this.
That guy, and hit enter. There you go. Okay. So that's your net operating income. Now just drop down to A13 and put in their cost. All right, and go down a couple more spaces just to let it breathe a little bit. What was your original? Just put PP, stands for purchase price.
It was like 248 and 70.
But just actually put in there PP in A15, and then in B15, put in what you spent to buy it. Okay, and underneath there, put in LTT, that stands for land transfer tax. Oh, LTT.
Oh, right, yeah.
LTT. Yeah, you're doing great. Excellent, you're getting it. All right, so now, do you have can you boot up Chrome or just any kind of browser?
Yep.
All right, so we'll just give me a second here. I'll put in the chat. Oops. Yeah, I'll put in the chat box the site that I screwed up. I'll put in the. Oh gosh, where is it? I gotta find the chat box. Well, I guess with you sharing the screen. Oh, here it is. Okay, I got it. So I'll put in the chat box. You should see it blinking at you. That's the site I use to calculate land transfer tax. So grab it out of the chat box, put it into your Firefox or Chrome or whatever browser you're using, maybe Safari, and go to that site. Okay. All right, have you gone there?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Okay, can you bookmark it before, just so you can find it again?
There we go. Okay.
All right, so put in there 248,000. And make sure you say Ottawa, not Toronto, because Toronto has an extra land transfer tax. So just Ottawa, or Ottawa's fine, yeah. And it should tell you how much the LTT is.
Calculate now. Okay.
Probably about 2,000 and change.
Oh, hang on. How will you see this property? So owner occupied, do I do rental?
No, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't ask you for that. Just calculate now. So I just did it. So if you just put in 248, it'll show you 2205. Should show you that 2205.
Can you see my screen, Bruce?
Yeah, I'm seeing the spreadsheet, not the
Okay.
the
Okay.
browser. And then under A17, you put in legal fees, comma, title insurance, very good, and disbursements. Okay, your spelling isn't great, but that'll do. Disbursements is with a B.
All right. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, and we're just going to put in $2,500. It's just an allowance, $2,500. Okay, and just put it exactly in C. Put in allowance, so you know that that's not the exact number. It's just something that you did there. All right. So in A18, you go total cost. Write down total cost. Very good. And you sum up those three numbers above. Plus, that's it. Plus. All right. Good. Now go down one more to A20. Put in renovations. Okay. How much did you spend on renovations? Okay. So did you spend anything else on it? You know, like were anything else that you spent?
No, outside of some standard maintenance, like electrical.
No, that's okay. Maintenance is something you can worry about, you know, later, unless it was a major makeover. So
no, nothing major.
So in A22, put grand total cost, and then you just add up the 252,705 plus the 75. Perfect. Plus that guy. Okay. Now go down one more line to 24, cap rate. All right, and then you go to there, equals the 19 and change above, 19 and change way up there, 19 up. There you go. That's the net operating income, and divided by the grand total cost. So go slash, you know, like the divide sign. There you go. Divide that, and change that to a percent. So there should be up at the top there, it'll say percent next to the dollar sign, just to the right of the dollar sign. There you go. And go up over one more up there, go back to the percent sign and go over a little bit more and do one digit. Over one more. There you go. There you go. 6.1%, 6.05%. Fine. So that's your cap rate. That's your cap rate. So it passes the test. It passes the Prof Bruce test. All right, so put that down, put in C24, you know, just so you know, passes the Prof Bruce test. Perfect. And then close your bracket. Perfect. All right, and then at the bottom, in one more down in 26, put E and OE. It says errors and omissions accepted, and OE. That's right. Just leave that there. It just says to you that this is, you know, if anybody else ever looked at it, your mortgage broker, your bank, you know, whatever, you say, look, we're making about a 6% return on this, and just save it. So, and just in case your computer goes, you'll have it somewhere. Okay, you saved it?
Yep.
All right. Now go up to E. All right, go to, I don't know, whatever, go to E6, all right, go down to E6. All right, perfect. And put in workshop. All right, so if you, how big is the detached garage? It's not very big.
Currently, no, it's not very big. It's 13 by 26, so it's 338 square feet.
So go over to G, just move your cursor over to G and put 13 in there. Just put the number 13. And then go over to H and put FT there, stands for feet. FT, all right. And then go over to I, go 26. And then over one more to J, FT. And then go over there, equals, so you hit the equal and multiply those two numbers together, times 26. Perfect. All right, and then in L, put in SQ, in L, SQ, and then space FT. It just stands for, obviously, square feet. All right, so what can you get for a 350 square foot workshop, or 338 square foot? So go back to F. All right, and I think you can get, for that size workshop, once you have reconfigured it, you can probably get $450 a month. So just write 450. That's an assumption, but I think it's probably accurate. Certainly I can get, for my 200 square foot workshops, I get 450. And Navan is just as good as a location as any. So make sure the 450 now is a dollar sign. So go and make that a dollar. That's perfect. All right, go down to F7, so underneath that. Go down there and you go equals 450 times 12. So you get your annual rent times 12. Yeah. And then under workshop, so where, yes, put that, that's GOI for gross operating income. And then go down and put OPEX there. Perfect. And then go in here and go equals. And then go to 5,400 and then multiply by 34, which you can get from C, right? C10.
Oh, right, yeah, yeah.
So you can connect everything, right? Times, that's it, perfect, times the 34%. So just go over to C10 and hit enter, there you go. You should put a minus sign in there, but that's okay. So you got your NOI, just go NOI now. And this time you can put the minus sign in. So you go equals 5,400 minus the 1836. Okay, and hit enter. Okay, now let's go down a couple more spaces to E11, cost of renos. So what would it cost you to renovate this for a workshop, you know, to really rebuild it basically?
I think we talked about this, maybe $60,000.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be that much because we were talking about making it bigger. So let's say 45,000. Okay, I think you'll probably do it for 45 grand. That's a guess. Make it a dollar sign again. And we're going to figure out the cap rate now on this. All right, so go down another space just to let it breathe a little bit so you can cap rate. And you know how to calculate it. Perfect. Excellent. And make that a percent with at least one decimal spot percent and one decimal spot. Go back up. That's it. No, the other one. There you go. Perfect. So, you know, so you get about a 7 or 8% cap rate. That is, real estate is not get rich quick. We've talked about that before, Matt. It's get rich slow. But 8% is a lot better than 6%, and 6% is a lot better than 4. All right. So it gives you something to work towards. Now, if you had to give your tenant out of the $450, if you had to give your tenant $50 a month, your cap rate would go down, obviously. But, you know, listen, I mean, for $600 a year, you know, your tenant does nothing. Just it gives you the political cover that you need. All right. Okay. So that gives you a sense of this. So now the question that you asked, is it worth holding on to? What could you sell this property for?
I'm going to say, we talked about this too before, but that's before I think things calm down, but 600, between $500,000 and $600,000.
All right, so let's go down to B28. All right, go to B28. And actually go over to A28, sorry. Okay, so selling price. Okay, and let's assume that you get 550,000 for it. Okay, we're not going to go to the max. We'll get, and just write in column C, guesstimate. It's all one word. The 2 S's in it though. It is actually a word now. Guesstimate. Very good. All right, and then under A29, we'll put a realtor commission in. And we'll go over to C29 and just put in 5%. 5%, perfect. And then go back to B and go equals, and then put the minus sign in. Sorry, backspace.
Equals.
Yeah, equals minus, and then click on the 5%. No, 5%.
Oops,
Yeah, sorry. Equals 5% times. Put the time sign in. There you go, selling price. Okay, perfect. And then underneath that, we'll put legal fees. So under A, we'll go, you'll pay some legal fees. It's less when you're selling. Obviously, there's no land transfer tax because you're selling it, not buying it. So we'll just put in, just go minus, put the minus sign in, 1,500. Just write 1,500 and then hit enter. That should work. There you go. And so you get your net. So what will you net from this? So net. Now you just add those 3 numbers, right? Because you got negatives there. Equals that plus that plus that. Okay, perfect. What's your mortgage?
188.
All right, so write down mortgage and go minus, put the minus in front of it. Minus 188,000. Hit the enter key. There you go. So net, just go net net. So repeat the word net again, net net. Perfect. And just add those 2 numbers up. Excellent. So you would get about 300,000, maybe a little bit more from this. And the real question that you and Michelle have to answer now is, can you invest that 333,000 in something that produces more than a 6% return? If the answer is no, you're obviously going to hang on to this.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that we probably could. Longer term growth notwithstanding, just from a pure NOI perspective.
Right.
We
So
talked
you
about
just
mini storage as an example.
Right. So you just said something very, very important, Matt. So what you said is exactly right, that the OYES plan is only partly about capital appreciation. It's mostly about cash flow, because you can't quit your day job because your building went up $30,000 in value, right? You can't. I mean, that's nice, but if you want to quit your day job and you need $10,000 a month, that's $120,000 a year. Even if your building goes up $120,000 a year, I suppose you could remortgage every year and take the $120,000 out, but it's not going to go up $120,000 a year. Maybe it did in the pandemic, but that is it might be a once in a lifetime thing for both you and me.
Yeah, and you're paying interest on that anyway, right? The money that you take out, so you're left with a lot less.
So it's my wife has a concept. She calls it IGA money. People don't really know what IGA is anymore, but it used to be a big deal around here. It was like a shopping,
Yeah, well, I remember. Yeah.
Okay,
Independent grocers. Yeah.
So she calls it IGA money. So Michelle, when you're watching this, IGA money is money you can touch, feel, and spend, and you don't have to pay it back. That's the nicest part about money, right? Is money that you can touch, feel, and spend. I mean, that's important. So what you said was very important, that what you are trying to do is you're trying to invest for cash flow as opposed to just investing for capital appreciation. Capital appreciation cannot be relied on because it also relies on the greater fool theory. Right? You understand that?
Yep.
that there's always somebody stupider than you or me who will buy it for more. Well, that's like playing musical chairs. Eventually you run out of chairs.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're trying to, so I would like you to put next to the 333 in C33, you say, question is, can Matt and Michelle, M plus M and M, do something with this, with these proceeds, do something with these proceeds that generates more than a 6.1% cap rate? Question mark. And I'd like you to, not cape rate, cap rate.
Cape. Yeah, I'm South African.
Yeah, you have to go back to that cell, exactly, and get rid of the cape. Only the Cape Crusader needs that. Okay, so can you highlight that from C33 all the way over to J in yellow? So go all the way over there. Oops, just one. That's it. And go up and find the yellow there under, just next to, yeah, perfect. Okay, excellent. All right. So that's what I need you and Michelle to think about. All right, because if you could buy something that has a 10% cap rate, then with that 333,000, because the emphasis here is on getting out of the JOB. That's what you need to do. All right, does it make any sense?
Yeah, 100% sense. Yeah.
All right, okay, you can stop sharing. It's great. Yeah, that was very good. So you feel more comfortable now with these spreadsheets? They're simple, eh?
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of got the hang of them from some of our past discussions in the courses that we've taken, but it's nice to go through it in practical terms too.
Yeah, you have to practice it. It's the only way to learn this stuff. I mean, I'm self-taught, but I had about 45 minutes of explanation how to use this spreadsheet, it's like 30 years ago, maybe more. And that's all I needed. After that, I discovered everything else on my own. But the first 30 or 40 minutes, maybe even an hour, somebody who knew something about spreadsheets showed me, hey, you do this, this, and this. Oh, this is pretty cool. And then I became pretty good at it. So that was good. So what I want you to do is I want you to do the same kind of thing that we just did. We can do it now, but we're not going to. You're going to do it on your own time, is do something similar for Bourget. Okay.
Bourget, yeah. Okay.
And it'll be interesting to see. It's good. The other thing that I think you might do is you might go and actually visit it. You can book a showing.
That's easy enough.
Easy enough. But I think it just, I know that we say, we're probably not going to do it. Okay. But, unfortunately, with any business, it doesn't matter, you and I were opening a shoe store. We have to have experience. It's the greatest teacher. I really shouldn't say that because I am a teacher, but experience is the greatest teacher for all of us. So I think you and Michelle should just call up the agent and say, look, we're coming to see it if that's okay with you, and go through it, get the lay of the land. You go by there on a motorcycle anyway, you know it pretty well. And when you're there, if you don't mind, take your cell phone and do a short video for me, right? So as you're walking through, you say, hey, Prof Bruce, here I am with Michelle. Here's my motorcycle. Here's Bourget. But when you're recording the video, you do not want the realtor with you, because you'll be saying things to me as you discover things that will talk about animations and other ideas that will come to you because you're on site. All you'll be doing is giving the realtor for the seller ammunition to use against you later.
Right, or to remarket it if we don't buy with all that intel.
Yeah. I mean, look, I give it plenty of free advice. If I'm not going to do anything with the property, like I was working with a very large developer yesterday for a client of mine. He decided to pass on it, but there were a few obvious things that the large developer could do to add value to his property, and I gave him some free advice. I said, what free advices were? Not very much, but there were a couple of things that will help him. These are huge developments that are ongoing. These are 600,000 square foot industrial buildings that are being built, and he just calls it building A, building B, building C. And I said, if you do nothing else, his first name was Ryan. I said, Ryan, you should name these buildings. You know, what building would you rather be in? You know, building A, or, you know, something that's named after maybe a lead tenant. You know, I'm in the Amazon building, I'm in the Wayfair building, right? I just think it gives it a little bit more value. As you know, I even name residential buildings. Like if you buy this property in Bourget, you're going to give it a name rather than be, you know, XYZ or 1, 2, 3, 4, any street. It's going to be, give it a name. One of the buildings I'm renovating in Belleville, which I've talked about before, we found out that it used to be called 100 years ago, the Burroughs building.
Yeah.
And people in Belleville called it the Chinagate building because the Chinagate restaurant was there. It was a terrible restaurant. If you ate there, you're lucky you didn't die from food poisoning. And so, well, I'm certainly not going to keep it. First of all, I don't want anything with the name China in it. It's not the most popular country in the world.
Not yet. Only next to Russia, Iran, or
Russia, Iran, or North Korea is, you know, might be worse.
The North Korea building, yeah.
Yeah, the North Korea building. No, I don't think I'll call it that either. So we're going to go back to the Burroughs building. So when we've signed up a bunch of tenants where you're not in the Chinagate building, you're not at 249253 Front Street, you're living or working in the Burroughs building.
Yeah.
So these are very, very simple things. And then the other thing is they had, this is a huge project close to the 417. In fact, adjacent to the 417. On a very high profile site, and they had these huge signboards that have been approved by the NCC and the city of Ottawa. And I said, you've got to make those video boards as opposed to just selling, you know, space on the sign. If you have a video board, you know, think Las Vegas, think New York, Times Square. If you have a video board, you'll make a hell of a lot more money. You're selling time instead of. And he said, "Oh, that's a really good idea." So I gave him some free advice, but that was only after my client decided to pass on it.
Okay.
All right. So when you record the video, you say, look, I think maybe we could do a pond here. You know, maybe we could put a couple of bunkies here. This unit might be perfect for this Airbnb. Go through, you probably won't get to see 6 units, but you might get to inside one of them.
Okay.
All right. So, okay, that we've dealt with that. And the other thing I would like you to do, just out of interest, is talk to your 2 tenants. In Navan, your existing tenants, and say, look, it would probably help all of us if I could convert that to a workshop, but to make it legal, I would need help from you guys. And if you're not interested, I won't do it, you know, only if you agree, and there'd be a little bit of money for you guys as well to agree. You know,
yeah, everyone wins. Yeah.
And if they tell you to go fly a kite, then you go, no problem, whenever you move out. But it will actually help them as well as you, not just because you can give them $50 a month for their trouble, but also because if you can push the cap rate from 6 to 8%, you'd be more likely to keep the property. And they know you as a landlord. I hope they like you as a landlord. Who knows what the next landlord would be like?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we do have a good, we have a great relationship too. So
exactly.
Ideal tenants, the only challenge I have with them is that they're staying, and I want to increase the rent because I know I can get a lot more for it.
You can get a lot more for them, but this is a way for you to get more rent, but not out of that. And you could tell them that. I said, look, if you cooperate with me, if you help me, I can get more rent without you having to pay me more rent. It just helps me, and frankly, it helps you too. If you sort of see that, tenants understand that. They do understand it. Okay, so I did get an answer from Prolock. Yeah, I'll show you what they said. So I did ask her, you know, because you asked me, I asked Mary Greer whether they would sell you Prolock for somewhere between 650,000 and 750. That was me ad-libbing, I guess. So I asked whether she would sell you Prolock, just Prolock, without any extra land for 650 to 731 actually, and whether they would sell 10 acres at maybe 45 to 55,000 an acre. And then she wrote me back, which I thought was a very good answer, or at least partial answer, and I'll just show you what she wrote. You can read it for yourself. Can you read it here? It's this.
Okay. So we're fundamentally at a standstill because of some of the back and forth with planning in the city.
Yeah, I think that, you know, remember they started to develop a parking lot because I suggested it to them, that one of the most profitable, you know, part of this business is RV parking, bus parking, contractor yards, etc. So Gary started to do that. Do you remember the site plan that I showed you?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, he started to do that without actually amending the site plan. And then his neighbor complained. That neighbor has sold his property, gone away, and the new neighbor doesn't care. Hey, listen, put a parking lot back there, knock yourself out, hope you make a fortune with it. So he started doing it again. And their planner, Tracy Nolan, not Tracy Zander, right? Tracy Nolan, same first name, but not last name, different planner, said, hey, listen, if there's no complaints, just go ahead and do it. So they're doing that now. But they, you know, so in terms of timing, you know, I was disappointed in the sense that Mary and Gary have been saying the same thing to me for at least 3 years and maybe 4 years. It's at least 3 years, I'm sure of that. She said it was last year, but I recall it, hearing about this for some time now. So unfortunately, yeah, I don't think they're going to do much. You know, I don't understand it, but like, if you think about it logically, planning issues go on forever, as you know. They take forever. And if they were going to sell 10 acres, they just sell 10 acres. Say, look, we'll sell you 10 acres for 400 grand or 450,000. Here's the 10 acres. Which part of this 40 or 50 acres do you want? Just sever it off and sell it. Like, what's the deal there? Do you understand?
Yeah, yeah.
So this answer to me was good in the sense that they're going to at least apparently deal with their planning issues, but bad because they haven't done it in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And something happens when people get older. I mean, I got to be careful because I'm getting there too, but you know, something happens when people get older. They procrastinate and they don't make good decisions. And often what happens, unfortunately, is they die before they do anything.
Yeah. So right now, this is fundamentally a no-go at this juncture unless they come around and decide to do something. Is sort of this is
what
exactly how I'm reading it.
Ask you to do is, if you don't mind, is bookmark it in your calendar for November. The best time to buy real estate, in my opinion, in Ottawa is November, December, and January, maybe the beginning part of February, but November, December, January is the best time. It's starting to get cold, it's getting dark. You know, you've heard me say this before, Canadians want to jump off a bridge, you know, 37 million of us all at the same time. And so bookmark it for November. And what I would like you to remind me to do, and I'll do it for November, is we'll see if we can book a meeting. You know, hopefully if we can get Gary and Mary online, that would be best. But if not, a meeting in person where we can have a discussion, because you know, emails are not going to work in this case. It just isn't. And if you and Michelle really want 10 acres from them, and I think you were right. I think when we talked about it last time, you sort of said, you know, ProLock is, you know, it's okay. I mean, they've done a good job with it, really, but it's just a bunch of sea cans, which are frankly quite ugly. And in my opinion, you'd be much better off now that you and I thought it through together, just buying 10 acres and doing contractor yards.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Agreed.
It's, I mean, you know, you saw what happened with the 10 acres that Chris Long, you know, he bought it for 475 and now it's worth, according to the appraiser, 3.5 or 3, I think it was 3.6 million. And that took
so
4
that's
years.
what I would like to do is follow that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And so put it in your calendar for November. And remind me that it's an in-person meeting.
In-person meeting. Okay.
Yeah, I think we should do that because I don't think we can get Mary and Gary. They're just, you know, I mean, some people in their 80s can figure these things out, but it's not easy. So it'll be an in-person meeting and we'll sit down. And I think Michelle, if she could come to that, should come to that because having a woman there can make a big difference.
Understood. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. And so, yeah, I'll definitely put that in the calendars and see if we can get something chalked up for then. But speaking of long yards and storage yards, I did notice that we had discussed the property on Boundary Road.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
5495 Boundary Road. I revisited that, saying, you know what, like that still rang a bell in my mind because that had more.
Yeah, it's kind of small though, isn't it? It's kind of small.
It's gone.
They sold
so
it?
It looks like apparently when I looked on realtor.ca, I was curious, and I don't know how to find this out, but what did it sell for? Because
I could find that out. I can find it out. I have access to that information. So if you don't mind, send me an email with the address in it, and I can look it up because I have access as a realtor. I have access to the registry office, online access, and so I can look up any property in Ontario.
Okay.
All right.
I'd be curious to see what that actually sold for.
Yeah, and if you're serious about Bourget, I will look up Bourget as well to find out when they bought it, how much they bought it for, all of that information. I have all access to all of that. So if you're even slightly interested in Bourget, you say, Bruce, I went to Bourget. Here's my video, and I did the spreadsheet, and it looks interesting. And then you know, so it's called Geo Warehouse.
Yeah,
that's the name of it. So just again on Bourget, you say, Bruce, can you look up any property you're interested in? Just put the street address in, and I can check Geo Warehouse and get you the title information, how much they paid for it, and lots of other information. So do that for Bourget, you know, and do it for Boundary Road, and let's see what they got for it. But I wanted to show you two other possibilities for your OYES plan. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I told you about this, but I might not have. So in terms of, oops, guess I should share my screen again. So there's this property on March Road in Canada, all right, which is owned by a friend of mine, or was owned by a friend of mine. His name is Trevor Small. Did I ever tell you about this property?
I'm not 100%. I think maybe you did.
Yeah. So his last name is Small. Trevor is his first name. He passed away about 3 months ago. Very, very nice man. Well into his 80s, but full of beans, full of life. And he and I were talking about converting. This is a 28-acre property on March Road, close to the Carp Airport, if you know where the Carp Airport is.
Yeah.
And because his last name was Small and he's interested in doing contractor yards, we were going to call it Small Yards. Right? You know, small yards, contractor yards, makes sense. And one of my daughters, in this case, Jessica, did a little logo for him. I thought it was pretty cute. And then here's a picture of the property. This is, I think, my son's truck. They've got 2 wells on the property. There's one of them. And so here's the, this is just my sketching. So this is, if you can see my cursor moving back and forth, this is March Road here. And this is Rob Lytle's lane. So there's a laneway over here. It is actual road. And so this property has access to Rob Lytle's lane and has access to March Road. So what I was talking to to Trevor about and his family was doing a long yards on this property. And then unfortunately he passed away. His widow is a wonderful lady. Her name is Marlon, like the fish. I said, do you want to continue with this idea to develop some contractor yards here? And she said, yes. And so I said, well, I'll help you with that, because Trevor, before he passed away, asked me to take care of her if I could, to help her. And I said, okay. So I sketched out a phase 1 plan here for her, which was 6 small yards over here on the right-hand side. Can you see it okay?
I can.
These are each 50 feet wide by 100 feet deep, so they're 5,000 square feet. Here's a driveway that comes in off of March Road. And here are 3 bigger yards that are about half an acre. They're, I think, 100 by 200. So these are half an acre, and these are, you know, about 1/8 of an acre here. Okay. And I think there's some demand for larger yards. And we know there's a lot of demand for the smaller yards. So we don't know if the larger yards are as much in demand as that. So anyway, then I said to her, look, to develop phase 1, to put a automatic gate in here, to add electricity, to grub it. Grub it means remove the trees, and to gravel it. It's going to cost at least $300,000. And Marlon and her family freaked out. I said, well, wait a second. It costs you $300,000, but if you think about it, you could probably make $2,000 for each of these yards, and less for these ones, maybe $500. So you could probably make $9,000 a month from phase 1, which is about $115,000 a year on a $300,000 cost. You know, that's pretty good. The cap rate here would be, I'm sure it would be 15%, if not 20%, right? Typically, you know, the contractor yards like long yards are generating, you know, 14, 15%. To as much as 20%. And I think Chris, now with the full thing developed, is probably north of 20%. So he's not trying to get a cap rate of 6% or even 7, 8, 9, or 10. He's trying to generate 20 or maybe even higher than 20% cap rates, and he's doing that. And so are many others that are clients that I coach in the States and in Canada. But you know, Marlon is in her 80s, and her daughter Steph, who's a wonderful person, they're extremely risk averse. Extremely risk averse, like very much so. So, and I said, well, wait a second, if you could make, I think this is 3 acres. If you could make $9,000 a month from 3 acres, if you did develop the whole damn thing as contractor yards, you know, that's maybe 10 times that. Who knows? Maybe you could make $70,000 or $80,000 a month. Well, that's a lot of money. But anyway, but I said, look, you're the boss here. I'm just the coach. And they said, well, could you sell it? And I said, well, maybe. What do you want for it? And Marlon said $1.5 million. I said, I can't sell it for $1.5 million. I can't. And she said, why? And I said, because, well, you know why. So the next bit of information that I'm going to tell you is confidential. Is that okay?
100% confidential.
All right. So I said, we have tested the water on this site. And we have one well on the site that goes down 400 feet, and it found salt, you know, over a certain minimum level. So there's something called ODWO, Ontario Drinking Water Objective Standards, and it was way over that. So we drilled another well 1,000 feet down. That's a long way, and it also had salt over the limit. So this property, I said to Marlon, you can't build a house on it. You'll never get a building permit for it. It never's a long time, but it's unlikely that you're going to get a building permit because you can't provide. I mean, with reverse osmosis, you can drink seawater, right? You know that, right?
Yeah.
You can, but the city of Ottawa and the province of Ontario do not allow people to rely on reverse osmosis. It works perfectly well. I have a reverse osmosis plant, $37,000 investment. Wow. To put a reverse osmosis system in. But I've got a building which was built 25 years ago where I needed good water. I put the plant in and it provides excellent water. You can drink it, and it's perfectly safe, but it's well over the limit as well. But that's 25 years ago. You couldn't do it today. Okay, so the only thing you can do with this is park on the damn thing. You with me on this so far?
Yeah.
And I said, if I'm going to sell it, I have to disclose this to folks. You know, realtors should know a lot about the properties they're selling, and they should be honest, in my opinion. And I think that's part of their code of ethics. Some are not. Some would hide it, but I would not. So the only thing you can do is park on the damn thing. But contract yards is more profitable than just putting a house on it anyway, right? So I said I could probably get about 635,000 for the 28 acres, which is a very low price. And I said, Marlon, my recommendation is you hold on to this. The family should hold on to it. Develop this as contractor yards. It's just parking. And then something else very interesting happened, Matt. A bunch of tiny house people who own tiny houses, have come to me and asked me if there's a place for them to park their tiny houses. So, well, that's interesting. So I said, what if we were to park tiny houses in some of these little contract yards? They're 5,000 square foot lots, basically, right? And you might get $500 a month, you know, for parking, for a contractor yard, and you can probably get $500 or $600 from a tiny house guy. Now, there is a caveat to it. I'm going to stop sharing just for a second so we can see each other a little better. There is a caveat to this, that's not a legal use to park tiny homes. Parking tiny homes, probably you could get away with that. Living in them, probably not. So, but, you know, and listen, again, I can't coach you on this, but speaking for myself, I don't care. Do you know where the salt contamination on this property comes from?
No.
Okay, you would. How would you know that? The city of Ottawa. So on one side of this property, there's an Ultramar depot, which has been a good neighbor. On the other side is the city of Ottawa Works Garage that has had salt on the property for 100 years. And if you go back in aerial photographs, they'll show salt domes without cover on the property. So for decades, rain would come down, the snow and sleet and ice would come down, and it polluted this property. So on behalf of my client, we sued the city of Ottawa. We did, because I can tell you, if the roles had been reversed, if you and I owned a property and we had stored salt in there and we had polluted the city of Ottawa's property, what do you think they would do to us? They would crucify us. Yeah. And so we sued them, and the city of Ottawa said, oh, it's not we didn't do it. I said, how the hell do you get salt down 1,000 feet on this property? Next
to a salt plant, or salt.
And they said, well, it must be from road salt. And our consultant, our environmental consultant, said, they literally laughed in their faces because we did, you know, what do you call it, a mediation?
Yeah.
And I mean, it was funny, and I'm a civil engineer. I mean, it was just humorous. They laughed. I said, no judge in his or her right mind are going to believe that, and you're going to end up having to clean 1,000 feet of soil, which would be millions and millions and millions of dollars. So basically the city crumbled at that point, and they settled. So Marlon and her family got a nice big check from the city. So they come back to me and said, we might sell it for $635. We might. And so what I'm not telling you and Michelle that you should do anything, but I'm thinking of putting a group together to buy it. And I'm going to have like a webinar on it with I'm going to ask Paul Lalonde to come. Paul Lalonde is my gravel guy. A guy by the name of Stuart Tilling is my grubber. And there's a bunch of tiny home guys. And I thought you and Matt, you and Michelle ought to join that. And I'll tell you when it's happening. Hang on, I'll go back to sharing. Because I think you'd be interested in this. I mean, you know, again, it's entirely up to you. I'll just show you a few more pictures here. So here's an aerial photograph of the property, a better one. So this is March Road here. There is the Ultramar, I think, yeah. There are the salt domes here from the city of Ottawa. And there, Marlon's property, it goes from Rob Lytle's lane, which is here, and it goes down here, 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 and there. So it's 28 acres. And there's a picture, that's March Road there. In that direction, there is Carp Airport. There's the Ultramar plant. This is my daughter Jessica and Stephanie, Marlon's daughter. We were on site there. Having some fun. So I think it's a very well located piece of property. It's exactly 8 minutes from the Canadian Tire Center. So if you can find the Canadian Tire Center, you can get there. And I think it's a good location for contractor yards. And I'm thinking, I don't know, I can't guarantee anything because I don't have a listing yet, but I think we could do a no money down transaction. I do think so. So what I'm thinking of doing is putting in an offer on behalf of the group. I'm going to put a group together for $635,000 because that's what they're asking for. And I'm thinking of putting 50% down in cash, but that would be funded by a mortgage. So put a land mortgage in place for 50%. That's fairly straightforward. And then I'm going to ask them to take the balance of it as a seller take back mortgage. And of course, I have to declare a conflict of interest here, you know, so there'll be disclosures on disclosures. But I think we could do it, you know, for, when I say no money down, I mean very little money down, right? And if you look at something, not a cap rate, but you look at internal rate of return. Do you know what an internal rate of return is? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think that's everything, including the appreciation of mortgage.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, he's getting it now. So when you look at internal rate of return, it takes into account, of course, cash flow, which is cap rate, property appreciation, and mortgage pay down, right? So when you put down a very small amount of capital and you get some kind of a decent return on, your internal rate of return is off the charts, way higher than your cap rate. So if we could get a cap rate of 15 or 20% on this, that would be great. But the internal rate of return is probably going to be 80%, you know? So it would be as if you invested in, you know, in a, I don't know, a cryptocurrency and got 80% a year for the next decade. So that's, the internal rate of return is very sensitive to the amount of investment. If you can minimize that, you can generally goose your internal rate of return way up. So I'm just going to go back to my slide deck. And again, you and Michelle don't have to do anything, but what you should do is come to this Zoom meeting. It's going to be, unfortunately, it's going to be on August 1st, which is a holiday Monday. It's the only time I have to do it. So I'm going to put it in the chat box, okay? And there's the Zoom meeting, and I think it says the day and date and all that good stuff. And so it's going to just be a 1 hour meeting. And you'll meet Paul, who's a contractor, Stuart, who's a contractor, some tiny house people, and then you and me, and hopefully Michelle as well. But it is unfortunately a holiday, but it's the only time I have.
Okay. Wow, Bruce, that sounds beyond interesting. And if we could rewind to the beginning of our conversation, we talked about, could we, and you made me highlight this in yellow, could we get a better rate of return, better cap rate with that $322,000? This seems like a textbook. Oh my God, we can't miss this.
I'm thinking of maybe each of us chipping in 25 or 50 grand, not 300,000, right? So, I mean, I have some ideas, but I'll work through it. I mean, I'll have more information by the time I get to August 1st than I do now. But I do think that it is a terrific opportunity. And for you and me, and the other people who might be involved, it's a way of the group generating, you know, significant returns. And it is part of my OYES plan. Remember, I've told you, you have to think of me as being 35, 40, or 50 years of age instead of 70, because I started over at age 54, right? Which is not that long ago. And right, I didn't start from zero, which would have been great. I started from a minus $1.7 million position. I owe that money to the CIBC.
Yeah, with some sketchy people chasing your kneecaps.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and I owed it to CIBC and CRA, which I did pay back. But, you know, it would have been much better if I had started at zero. I would have, because I have a portfolio now that's probably 8 figures, low 8 figures, so it's not really that big. But you know, that's from a negative position in 16 years. So it's been a lot of work, frankly. So it is part of my OES plan too, and it could be part of your OES, part of it. It's not the whole thing, but it's part of it. And I had one more thing I wanted to show you, because I've been thinking about your OES plan for a long time, and I want to show you one other.
So Bruce, just as we go, yeah, 100%. So I'm very,
yeah,
I'm very
I think
enthusiastic about this.
the other thing too that might make sense for you and Michelle is if we put a group together, especially if it has people like Paul Lalonde in it and Stuart Tilling in it, you and me, and these tiny house people, they're very nice people. So they would be both tenants and part owners. You know, it gives you a experience without having a lot of risk. Okay. Yeah. But there is an element, just so you know, and you have to caution, there's an element of civil disobedience here. And what I was going to say, and I hope Michelle will watch this if she has time, is
yeah, we will together.
that the city of Ottawa polluted this land, and I am going to do this at least phase one and maybe all of it without any involvement from the city. That's my plan, and I'll disclose that up front here. I have no one. It's just like when I rolled that so-called tiny house onto the barn dominium. I did not ask the city a damn thing, and I'm just telling you that if the city ever were to come along with a bylaw officer say, "Well, you've got a tiny home here and somebody's living in it," I'm talking about my barn dominium project. Well, you've got to get that off of here. I'm going to say to them politely, because I'm a polite person, no. And they're going to say, "Well, we're going to fine you." I said, "Yeah, that's fine. You can fine me. I won't pay it. I will appeal it. And I will take this to the Supreme Court of Canada. Because out of one side of your mouth, the city of Ottawa says, we encourage affordable housing. And out of the other side of your mouth, you say, oh yeah, if you want to build a little bunkie for your daughter, it's $121,000 in fees and studies. It's 1 or 2 years.
Which negates affordable.
It's ridiculous. And we might turn you down. You know, that's a whole other subject to have, discussion to have, excuse me. By the way, after a holiday, I left half my brain, I think, in Alberta. You know, I'm still not quite, you know, all here in terms of focus and attention, although I'm giving you focus and attention, but still. So I'll litigate that. I'd rather spend $121,000 on litigation, because I'll embarrass the city into changing their rules. I will. You know, if I live long enough, I'll get this stuff changed. I will. There's other things going on that I'll share with you at some point. So if we have, you know, 3 or 4 tiny homes on the site, it's just a parking lease. And the bylaw officer were to come along and say, well, are people living in it? I said, well, these are just parking leases. We park, you know, some RVs here. We park some loaders and dozers here, a few trucks, and we're parking some RVs. So sorry, some tiny homes. Well, are people living in it? Well,
I don't know.
I can't say I don't know, because I would know. I would say, all I can tell you is that we have a parking lease with them. Here's the parking lease. It just says parking.
Right.
What they do with it is up to them. Well, they're not allowed to park to live in their parked vehicles. That is also another stupid rule. I mean, if you had a beautiful tiny home and you wanted to park it in the back of your house or my house and have your daughter live in there or your son live in there, what the hell? Why not? You know? Yeah.
And they wouldn't be accessing the city water or the well water there anyway, probably. To be using their own
they will access the water, you know, because it's about 500 parts per million of salt. Now, compared to seawater, which would be, you know, 90,000, you know, I mean, you could drink that 500 parts per million, and it probably isn't going to affect your health in any way. I mean, if you drink salt water, you'll get sick, right? I mean, 90,000 parts per million is a hell of a lot more than 500. But it's not recommended. So they can use the water for washing their dishes. I mean, salt water is effective for washing dishes. You could shower in it. You just can't drink it without reverse osmosis. But if this business is a success, just put it in a reverse osmosis plant. Spend the $37,000. But I don't want to spend that up front. So what I'm going to talk to these tiny house people is, look, you'll have water. We got lots of water on the site. You can wash your car. You can wash your dishes. You can flush your toilet if you want to have a flush toilet, or a composting toilet if you prefer. We have all of that. but you just can't drink it. So you should, and these people all have tanks anyway, holding tanks for water, holding tanks for septic, okay? So, but there is an element of civil disobedience, and if you and Michelle are not comfortable with it, by God, I understand that completely. You know, you could take a pass on the investment, but buying this 28 acres, almost 30 acres of land for just over 600 grand is 20,000 an acre. You can't get much land for that, and it's perfect for this. So if the city were ever to and here's why. Sorry, it's a long explanation. Here's why.
No, this is great.
Here's why I don't think the city will ever bother us, because there is a confidentiality agreement, and I'm subject to that, and I've shared it with you on a confidential basis. There is a confidentiality agreement, and the only circumstance in which I can release that information publicly is if it's a legal proceeding. If there's a sort of government agency requires me, CRA or whatever, or there's a litigation. So if the city were to say, hey, Bruce, you've got 5 tiny houses there and some people are living in those, I go, it's only parking as far as I know, as far as their lease is concerned. And if they did that, then I would litigate that. I would say, well, I'm not paying those fines. I'm going to appeal them. And in that appeal, all of the evidence that we have against the city will come out. Do you understand that? That they are polluters. They don't want that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think
like,
what would happen is the bylaw officer would be told, hey, listen, shut up.
Like one of those Chinese finger locks, right?
I love that analogy. We got them in a Chinese finger lock. 100%.
I love it.
But civil disobedience is the only way. I can't tell you other examples, but there are many of my clients, and again, I can't coach people to do this, but I can tell you I've engaged it, and I'm doing more of it. And I'm furious with our city, and not just this city, Austin, Texas, Portland, Boston, you know, Seattle, Vancouver is disgraceful. You know, I have clients in White Rock, BC, who've been trying to get a 6 or 8 story building approved there for, it's got to be close to 7 or 8 years to build a little tiny fucking apartment building. Excuse my language. I'm pissed.
That's like it. Yeah.
All right. So let's go.
So Bruce, I just wanted to quickly pause on something, because this, as I mentioned, is very interesting to us. So we talked about the IRR, and we talked about selling Navan, but that notwithstanding, we have cash on hand, probably $300,000 cash unencumbered. So when we look at a $600,000 property, this is something that, in terms of an OYES, and if we can habu and we can animate this as we're talking about, there's an interest, at least as an opening kind of statement, for us to maybe take on potentially, depending on what it looks like, a bigger position in this, so that we can really sort of add octane to it.
No, I get that. I mean, you have resources, which is great. And a bigger position would be certainly open to you. I mean, I agree. I mean, you could end up with 20% or 50%. I mean, I'm completely open to that. And the fact that you are younger than me, and I know you said you're in your 50s. I remember that now. But how far into the 50s?
3 years into them.
53. So 53 is, you're still like a man peaks. I'm talking about in terms of his earning capacity, his experience, his knowledge, his energy, his luck, peaks sort of between, 35 and 60 or 65. There's about 30 years in there where you can really do some damage in a good way. And then, for me, I was cruising along at 60, 62, 63, 65. I didn't find any slowdown in myself until I turned, I think, 67 or 68. So I got closer to 70. And then I did notice it. So it's the first time that I've ever noticed it. So I think that 35, you certainly have energy before 35, but you don't have the experience and the wisdom, the knowledge, and you haven't kicked around enough. But 30
resources,
to 65, those 30 years. So you really have, and it might be 65, 66, 67, but it will definitely slow down at some point. So let's assume 65 for the moment. Doesn't mean you can't do stuff after 65, just means you have less energy. So the fact that you're 53, you have 12 years, which sounds like a lot of time until it isn't, right? So I think having somebody younger involved, you, if you have the energy to do it, and this would be one, and then, there's no reason why you can't do one closer to home, right? So we'll keep looking for that. All right.
Bingo.
So you've
Okay,
got it.
love it, love it.
I like it too. So you've got it in your calendar on August 1st for an hour. Now, the other thing I wanted to share with you is something that I'm doing out in BC. And it's something I think I mentioned to you before, but it's something I think you and Michelle could do too, if you wanted to. And let me show you what it is that I'm doing. So I was just out there last week. I visited my family. I have a daughter who's having her second child in Calgary with her husband. I visited them, and we did some, I have some clients there as well. I have some property that I'm helping with in Calgary. So I doubled up, visiting family and business. And then I flew from Calgary to Nanaimo, if you know where Nanaimo is.
Yeah, yeah.
It's on the Vancouver Island.
Yeah, that's where I finished the West Coast Trail. I actually hiked that, finished in
Exactly.
Nanaimo. Yeah.
Oh, fabulous. It's only 90 minutes from Calgary. I couldn't believe it. Just a 90-minute flight. And I own two sites, two 10-acre sites on Lasqueti Island, which is phenomenal. I've got two 10-acre sites on the Gulf Island, in this case, Lasqueti Island. And here is this is where the ferry docks, or the water taxi docks, and it's the size of Manhattan, has 700 people on it. It's absolutely fantastic. And a client of mine, Michael Rouge, who is the developer, owns this thing, this little red blob here. It's called Sila, S-I-L-A, Safe Island. And what he's done is he has 17 10-acre sites for sale. And I bought two of them. And another client of mine, Ruben Ugarte, and his wife, Mary Lou Aguiar, bought another one.
Yeah, I remember them from one of your trainings.
Yep. Now, this you're going to like, because I do. Each 10-acre site allows the development of 2 homes or 1 home and 5 or 6 bunkies. Look at the second sentence here. There are no building permits required, none. There's no site plan, no building permits. The reason for that is the island is run by something called Island Land Trust, and they don't want to take responsibility for reviewing your building. If you build something and it falls down on your head and kills you, good luck. That's your fault, not ours. Don't sue us because we didn't review it. So you've got 10 acres there. You can produce your own energy. You grow your own food. It's absolutely fantastic. So here, who's this guy?
Coach Bruce.
That's me.
Prof Bruce.
Yeah, I even have the same hat on, I think. Yeah. So when I was there looking at my sites, I bought them sight unseen because it's a coaching client of mine, Michael. I said, Michael, I want 2 of these, and I think he was asking $225,000 for each one. Okay, and so when I was there visiting my sites, Michael didn't know this either. Look what we discovered on the site: a beautiful water hole. So I've got this 10-acre site, site 16, which is fabulous, beautiful, mature trees, and I found this beautiful water feature, water hole. And my plan is I'm going to build a modular home, because you wouldn't build a stick-built home on here. It's too itsy-bitsy. You can just get a kit and build this damn thing. So I'm going to build a modular home on here. I'll probably have 6 bedrooms in it. And it won't surprise you at all, I'm going to put 5 bunkies on it, like the ones I just showed you earlier. You've seen these, all right? I'm not going to do the yurts. I'm just going to do the bunkies. Here's some more pictures. So this is the water taxi that goes to Lasqueti. Here it is here. And you can see I can't describe it. Lasqueti's weather in the wintertime, it's not Merida weather. It's between 4 and 7 degrees. Celsius in the wintertime. And in the summertime, it's about 25 degrees. It doesn't really get hot, you know. And the sites that Michael put together and that of which I bought two, are at over 400 feet of elevation. So this is not in an earthquake zone, although earthquakes can happen anywhere. It's not in an earthquake zone, and it's over 400 feet. So if the oceans raise a little bit in the next 100 years, it's not going to affect this property. So a lot of people,
if anything, your property value will go up because you're less likely to be underwater.
Well, there's, unless we get hit by a huge comet or asteroid, there's no chance that this thing is going anywhere. It's over 400 feet. You know, maybe the oceans will rise a meter in the next year, next 100 years, maybe 2 meters. I don't know. But if you have an ocean front and you get a 1 meter rise, that's a lot. And so I did not want oceanfront, nor did Michael. This is Michael here. I just took a picture as we were getting on the water taxi. And you dock here. It's called False Bay. I don't know why it's called False Bay, but it is. And there's a hotel there. There's only one hotel on the island. And they've got, this is my wife, Dawn, and there's Michael. They've got a beautiful little sort of bakery and general store. Nice picnic tables overlooking the Gulf. This is again, here's our group. This is Mary Lou and Ruben. They bought the site next to mine. There's the developer Michael. There's my wife Dawn. Here we are on the inside. That's Ruben again and Mary Lou. I took a few pictures inside. Michael has a cabin on the property. It's all solar power. And he has, I don't know if you know Elon Musk's new company called Starlink.
Yeah, I do.
He has a Starlink, so that's quite expensive, about $125 a month, but it is fabulous internet. So there you go. So this is Starlink. And then they're houses that are, you've got everything on here from bunkies to $1 million homes. And anyway, here is what I'm thinking. I want you to think about this, you and Michelle. So I bought site 16 and site 6. Ruben bought site 17. And site 15 was sold, but the guy couldn't come up with the money to close, so it's become available. I just confirmed that with Michael a few hours ago. So this is a 10 acres site here. It would be next to mine, which would be next to Ruben. And it's 200, I just checked with Michael this morning, it's $225,000. And here's what we're planning to do. I'm going to call my site 16 Waterhole Ranch.
Okay.
This is just my little sketching that Ruben and I did. So here's site 16, if you can see it on your computer.
Yeah.
I'm going to build a modular home with 6 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms for guests, and a 2-bedroom lock-off suite where I can have a permanent staff in place. And what I mean by that is I'm not paying anybody any money to be a staffer on my site. What I'll do is I'll have a 2-bedroom lock-off. I'll find a retired couple that have lots of energy that, you know, I'll rent them the lock-off suite for $2,000 a month, and then I'll pay them $2,000 a month to manage the site. So they'll have a 2-bedroom lock-off. They'll live for free, but they're not. That's it. They're not getting any more than that. And so the plan is to have a 4-bedroom house here with 2 bedrooms at the lower level, so it'll have a basement, a 2-bedroom lock-off suite, and then 5 bunkies. If you calculate it out, it will accommodate as many as 20 to 30 people on Airbnb. And Ruben is going to do something very similar next door. So we could have, I mean, if you and Michelle wanted to, we could have site 15, 16, and 17. We could accommodate groups as large as maybe 60 or 70 people. And what we're planning to do is we're not going to run it as a hotel. Forget that, it's way too much work. We're going to, for myself and my family, we'll use it 1 or 2 months a year. And then we'll have 10 or 11 months that we'll be able to rent it out. So the plan would be to rent it out on a month-to-month basis, sorry, on a monthly basis. So medium-term rental. So let's say you're running a tech group and you want to get away for a month and work on your tech project. You can come here. You can accommodate 20 people, up to 20 people here for a month. And if you want to rent it for 2 weeks, God bless you, rent it for a month and only use it for 2 weeks. It's up to you. But we're not going to do less than 29 days because it's just way too much work, and I'm not interested in running an Airbnb on a nightly basis or 2 or 3 day stays. That's way too much. So so I haven't yet done the ROI on it, which is embarrassing to admit, but I will do that, and I think the ROI will be very, very good. Be similar to what I think we're talking about for the small yards.
Okay. Wow. So the lot sells for 200.
225 is what he's asking for it, and he's out of the 17 sites. Excuse me, out of the 17 sites. And by the way, it's a co-op, so you get a share. Everybody has one share in it, right?
Okay.
So I have 2 shares. If you bought one, you'd have 1 share. It's a co-op. That's typical in BC. They're left coasters, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
But it's fabulous. No building permits at all. So it's 225. The Airbnbs on Lasqueti, on Gabriola, all the Gulf Islands were completely jammed, 100%, close to 100% occupancy, both summer and winter, because when Canadians are not as comfortable traveling overseas as they were before the pandemic. So they're looking more to a Canadian solution. And 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees is, again, it's not Merida weather, but it's a hell of a lot better than Ottawa.
Oh yeah, it's an order of magnitude better.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the house and the 2-bedroom lock-off suite, just rough numbers. What
I think that's going to be
cost?
about 450 grand as a modular home. And then I think, each one of these bunkies is about $10,000, but you got to put them together. So there is some cost there, but I will work out all of the numbers. All right. So that, I've given you some work to do, but on this one, I'll take responsibility for it. But one of the things I think you should do is talk to Michelle about it. It is a fantastic opportunity, in my opinion. And I think the numbers will be great. If you're interested, if you're not, that's fine. But if you're interested, then I would introduce you to Michael, and you should tie it up because it's going to sell. Like these, I've been helping Michael. I coach him. I'm so conflicted out on everything. You have to think that I can be fair. I think I can be. But so I've been coaching Michael, and I said this is a wonderful project. I fell in love with it. Obviously, I bought 2 of the damn things for myself. But this is something that I hope will be in my family for the next 100 years. And I think it'll make serious money. But I can't say that exactly until I do the spreadsheets. But I will have all the costing done. I will have the revenue side done, and I will do that. But what I'm saying is that if you like the idea, and you, Michelle, like the idea, the 3 of us, you, me, and Ruben, can really pool our resources and create something really special here.
Okay. Yeah, definitely interested in that too.
I think, and you would only invest in it, A, because it'll be part of your OYES plan, but B, because it's something that you would want in your family for a long time. And the other thing about this is, if things really get difficult, if inflation continues to go up, and we end up in some kind of a bind, like on my sites, I have no debt, right? So I'm going to fund this on a cash. I'm speaking just for myself, on a cash basis. I don't want any fucking mortgages on this thing. Excuse my language. I don't want any darn mortgages on it. So if everything goes to hell in a handbasket, is also a bolt hole to run to. It's the size of Manhattan. It has everything you'd want: the ability to raise food. It has wood energy. It has solar energy. It is 400 feet above sea level. And it is a bolt hole as well. If it can accommodate 20 people, it can certainly accommodate myself, my wife, and my kids and my grandkids, if necessary. That, I hope, is never going to happen. But right now, the world's in a very tough situation.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I like the bolt hole idea. And, just you were talking when we first started coaching, you had mentioned taglines and creating themes.
Yeah.
Right. So you mentioned family on a few occasions, and our recent events with my father kind of triggered a little bit of a family reunion as well, which triggered a let's get together more often kind of conversation, et cetera.
Exactly.
Just looking at this as an idea, you could theme that as a family reunion paradise, right?
And
Like, it doesn't matter where you're from.
You've heard me say that the demand on Airbnb is for larger groups. It absolutely is. I mean, as you know, I've got clients in Curacao, and they own 400 properties on Airbnb in the Caribbean, not just in Curacao, but Aruba, et cetera.
Yeah.
And the demand for larger groups is off the charts. So, I don't know about you, but when my wife and I travel with other couples and other families, it's actually more fun. I love my wife, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
It's fun. I mean, the guys go off and golf and the girls go off and drink wine.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. So because that site 15 is going to sell. So if you were interested, I'd introduce you and Michelle to Michael, and you would put in a conditional offer. You'd say, look, we're going to buy it, but we want a condition in it. The condition could be economic viability, which is a very general condition.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll buy it. We need 3 weeks to walk through with Prof Bruce, or a month to walk through with Prof Bruce, all of the economic viability, make sure that it's going to work. And give us 3 or 4 weeks of condition, because he's going to sell it, for sure. But the fact that I wouldn't have brought it up if it was the fact that it's contiguous with my site and Ruben's site was really important. And until this morning, I didn't know that it was available.
Perfect. Okay, absolutely, Bruce. So if there's any economic viability spreadsheets, ROI that
I'll do all of that, but I can't promise to do it in the next couple of days. So
understood.
You talk to Michelle. Michelle may say, "Like, this is a terrible idea," so that's okay. I mean, I'm not worried about Michael. He'll sell he's sold out of the 17 sites. He sold, I think, 15 of them, and he has 2 left to sell. It was only 1 left to sell, and then the guy couldn't complete, so he's now got 2 left to sell. So he's fine. But if you and Michelle are even slightly interested, let's tie it up for 3 or 4 weeks. And if you after 3 or 4 weeks you don't like the idea, you just simply say, Michael, we're going to pass on it. Okay.
Okay. All right. Good.
All right. Listen, I've got it recorded. I'll put it on YouTube and I'll send it to you soon. Okay.
Outstanding, Bruce. Grand slam. Appreciate it.
I think so too. See you later.
Bye. Cheers.